Hey guys, hope you're all well. Hello, hello. Yeah, apologies. Let's start off with an apology. Yeah, I set this for 3 p.m. my time and then fell asleep. So I woke up at 1:15 thinking, oh, it's okay. I set it for 4. And then it dawned on me that I didn't. I set it for 3. So here I am, half an hour late, or I guess you might say half an hour early if you were Michelle just woken up. Anyway, if you've been waiting patiently, I do apologise. Yeah, you know me too well. You know me too well. So yeah, I woke up and I thought I'll just check the time on this live stream. I'm sure I put it for 4, and then I was like, oh no, I'll put it for 3. I know I'll put it for 3, and there you go. So anyway, here we are. Right, what we're going to do today, we're going to go through this phone interview that someone called Sleuth Intuition had with Patrick Westfall. So, Sleuth Intuition, I've never heard of this channel before this, and I only knew that this existed because it came up in my suggested feed. So, YouTube did a good thing because I wouldn't have known about it otherwise. I probably would by now because I've seen a couple of people go through clips from this interview, so I probably would have realized that it was a thing that was going on. I'm just setting up my other computer so I can see the chat properly. All right, there we go. We're all sorted. You love an afternoon nap. I always fall asleep. I always fall asleep in the afternoon, whether I mean to or not. And I certainly didn't mean to today. But I can sleep anywhere. I literally can sleep anywhere. So yeah, so we're going to go through that. But before we do, I'm going to just give everybody a reminder as to who Patrick Westfall is and why he's important to the Delphi case. That he's become important anyway. He's become important because of the 136-page memorandum. This 136-page memorandum that Richard Allen's defense put out back in September. It's like nearly a month ago now, but yeah, it certainly set the cat amongst the pigeons. So we're going to read the section in the memorandum specifically about Patrick Westfall before we get into the phone interview. And yeah, let's see who's in the house first, though. Let's see who was in the house way back. Down Under with Love, ASMR Tingle Pink, Sarah, Neela, It's Just Me, Owen Flow, Sarah, Party Cake. The case just gets more interesting. I know. Who'd have thought? You're a subscriber and you can't hear anything. That's because I hadn't started. Tassie. You should be able to hear me fine now. RZ TV, hello. Having fun in the mud. Yeah, we were this morning. It's very muddy here. Very, very muddy. It's rained so much. No, I'm not having bad luck. Just asleep. All right, without further ado, let's read this. So this is from the memorandum that Richard's defense did very well. They've done very well, in my opinion. Even if it turns out that Richard Allen is guilty, they've put reasonable doubt into this case, and they've certainly made it very interesting. And it seems that the prosecution is playing catch-up. They're now playing catch-up, as we'll get into. So for those of you who haven't heard the phone interview, Patrick was interviewed again and polygraphed in August. So, So when we've speculated that the prosecution are now rethinking the case, they certainly are. It seems to be, at the very least, they are going back and excluding as many people as they can so that they can maybe counter as many things as they can at the trial. And we've got to remember that the trial is due to start in just, less than 3 months' time. It's due to start in January. January the 8th is the time currently scheduled for jury selection to start. So presumably the trial will start soon after jury selection is finished. But there is a hearing, an emergency hearing next week. So for those of you who didn't see the post that I put on my community wall yesterday over on MichelleAfterDark, the Judge Francis Gull, has called an emergency hearing to discuss recent matters. That's what she said, recent matters. That's scheduled for October the 19th, so next Thursday. So as far as I know, there's no cameras. As far as I know, the Richard Allen asking for cameras, I don't think that's been decided on yet. But maybe that's going to be something that they discuss at this hearing. But there is a scheduled hearing in the schedule for October 31st anyway. So this emergency hearing is to talk about stuff ahead of that hearing. So the judge is obviously taking this all this recent stuff very seriously. I bet she's furious. But yeah, anyway, let's read this. This is it's quite a short section from Patrick Westfall, about Patrick Westfall. Have I watched Delphi After Dark? No, I don't think I have. It's not a channel that's ringing any bells. I may have done, because I just watch random videos. I watch a bunch of random videos, but it's not a channel name that I remember. Okay, so this is the section starting on page 99. Patrick Westfall's connection to the crime scene. Much of what connects Patrick Westfall to the crime scene has been discussed in the section detailing what connects Brad Holder to the crime scene. So the majority of the information about that's been named about the Odinist is about Brad Holder. Brad Holder seems to have the closest connection to the crime scene, according to the defense, because it's his son that was the boyfriend of Abby Williams. That's not the only reason why Brad Holder's been closely connected to the crime scene, but the defense have focused a lot of time on linking him to the crime scene. But Patrick is a friend, or at least was a friend of Brad Holder. So, to shorten this section, the defense will numerically lay out both the evidence previously discussed, as well as a few other pieces of evidence that tie Westfall to the crime scene. Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall were friends at least until late January 21st, 2017, as proven by Facebook photos previously attached. However, according to Amber Holder, who was Brad Holder's wife, or maybe ex-wife, ex-wife, and law enforcement monitoring Facebook posts between Holder and Westfall, a fight between Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall occurred sometime in February 2017 concerning a ritual gone bad in the woods near a creek. So this is discussed in the phone interview. In the Odin report, Brad Holder told Amber Holder that the person that murdered the girls was Patrick Westfall and his crew. Further, as referenced in the Odin report, Brad Holder told Amber Holder that Patrick Westfall is dangerous and has powerful friends that will protect him, and that she, Amber, needs to back off or he, Brad, will not be able to protect her. So we've got a footnote here. If the fact or piece of evidence has been discussed in the previous section, the defense is not going to drop a footnote to that reference, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Brad Holder told law enforcement that Patrick Westfall has PTSD. A video of the ritual in Fort Wayne that Forensic sent to Liggett and which has been attached as an exhibit shows Brad Holder videotaping someone that looks like Patrick Westfall using his finger to mark a tree in the ceremony at about the same height that the F tree was marked in Libby's blood, leaving the question of whether Patrick Westfall marked the F tree the same way that he marked the tree in the Fort Wayne ceremony video. I mean, some of these are just very loose speculations, in my opinion. Patrick Westfall lives within a 7-minute drive of where the girls were murdered. Johnny Messer and Brad Holder commonly hung out at the Monon High Bridge and in the woods around the Monon High Bridge. Patrick Westfall also admitted that he knew the woods around the Monon Trail very well. A Patrick Westfall Facebook post from just 2 months before the girls are murdered shows Westfall cutting tree limbs into rooms by slicing the tree limbs with an electric saw, creating clean, smooth edges to the tree limb. In that Facebook post, Brad Holder is commenting, "Cutting runes." At the crime scene, one of the tree limbs placed on Abby at its end sliced cleanly and smoothly, similarly to the way that Patrick Westfall is slicing the tree limbs in Exhibit 98. Again, I find these very speculative at best. Westfall's alibi for February 13th, 2017 is that on that day, the day of the abduction, Patrick, was at home with his son, Nick. Now, his son, he's got more than one son, I think, but there is a son mentioned in the phone interview, and that son claims he was at school that day, like even he was interviewed. They are very tenuous. I agree with you there. We say howdy here. There's some very tenuous links. There is no evidence that law enforcement knocked on doors to determine if Patrick Westfall was at home at that time, nor any evidence that law enforcement walked around the neighborhood to see if any Ring doorbell cameras or any other type of cameras caught Patrick Westfall leaving the house. Law enforcement just believed Patrick Westfall. Patrick Westfall was a pastor for a religion known as Asatru, which is a warrior type of religion with many gods, including Odin and Thor. Okay. Patrick Westfall and Brad Holder were both affiliated with Vinlanders Club or gang, along with Johnny Messer. Thank you, Annibal Stealth, for the $2. Thank you. It's very kind of you. But did he go to the same school as Abby or Libby? Yes, I want to know that, ASMR Tingle Pink. I want to know that, because they weren't in school that day, were they? And at the time, Patrick says his son was only 12. So, a year younger than Abby. Abby was 13, Libby was 14. So, I don't know, he may have gone to a different school. Westfall said one of his kids was in the same class as the girls, so they couldn't be in school that day. Yeah, he's got several kids, though. So, they didn't attend the same school. All right. Okay. On March 2nd, 2017, only 16 days after the girls were found murdered, Unified Command member Kevin Hammond indicated there was no lead required concerning Patrick Westfall, meaning no further need to investigate Patrick Westfall. But it seems now that the prosecution are playing catch up. They're having to go back and do all the things. Patrick Westfall is connected to the crime scene in multiple ways. It's unknown if Brad Holder threw Patrick Westfall under the bus to Amber Holder in order to take the stink off himself, or if Brad Holder knows that Westfall murdered those girls and then marked the treat like he did in the Fort Wayne ceremony. Either way, it cannot be understood that one single solitary softball interview between law enforcement and Patrick Westfall is disgraceful, considering everything listed above that links Westfall to the crimes. Let's repeat that. It appears that Westfall was interviewed one time on February 19th, 2017. So just 6 days after the girls were murdered, Patrick Westfall was interviewed. He's been interviewed again, but 2 weeks later, March 2nd, Westfall was eliminated as a suspect. The defence is unaware of any search warrants requested on Patrick Westfall to determine whether this Asatru pastor had taken clothes off Abby and Libby as ceremonial keepsakes, or even if he had saved Abby's blood. By looking at the 5-paragraph report generated from the only interview of Patrick Westfall, it looks like law enforcement did nothing but lob giant softballs at Patrick Westfall rather than conduct an intense interrogation the way citizens would expect for someone that the evidence shows is so closely connected to the crimes. I do find it interesting that they interviewed him very early on in the case. Oh, you meant Brad Holder's son didn't attend the same school as the girls. Westfall said that the other night his son was in the same class. Depends which kids we're talking about, though. And then it goes on to talk about Johnny Messer. And the links between all of these people mentioned is Johnny Messer. Because in the interview, which we're going to get into very, very soon, he says he doesn't know Elvis Fields, who incidentally told both of his sisters that he was there when the girls were murdered. And he said something very worryingly to a law enforcement officer that if he could explain why his DNA was there, why he spit on one of the girls, would that be okay? Very odd statements to make. But Patrick says he doesn't know Elvis, and the defense have never claimed that Patrick knows Elvis. The link is Johnny Messer. So Johnny Messer was close with Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall, but also knows Elvis, Ned Smith, and Rod Abrams. So it's Johnny Messer that is the link between all of these people. And in this interview, Patrick goes to pains to say that he doesn't like Johnny Messer, doesn't like him anymore. Johnny Messer's a bad man. Johnny Messer worships Loki. Loki's a bad man, a bad god. Have I ever seen the pic in black and white of Alan's daughter on the bridge day of her wedding? I've seen a picture of his daughter on the bridge. I don't know if it was the day of her wedding, though. But I have seen a picture of his daughter on the bridge. I have seen that. They really have. They really have done a great job of muddying the waters. Really, really good. Yeah. Okay, let's get into this interview. So this is on Sleuth Intuition's channel. I'm going to put this in the chat. And for those of you on the replay crew who come to this later, the link is already in the description. So we're going to be stopping it frequently. We're going to be discussing some of these points very carefully because it's very interesting. Somebody should do an interview with Brad Holder, see what he has to say for himself. And also Elvis. Someone needs to have an interview with Elvis to see what he has to say for himself. There was a graduation pic. I do know I've seen one picture. I don't know what the occasion was. All right, let's go. So Sleuth Intuition says that he cut off the kind of the first beginning part of the phone call. Presumably, I don't know, they were just making small talk. So this is where it starts. Let me know that you can hear this all right.
That I couldn't understand the purpose behind it. It's like, man, you guys are asking some pretty off-the-wall questions from the first time that I spoke with the state police and the FBI back when all this stuff first happened. Is, you know, I got kids in the same classroom. My daughter was in the same grade as these girls. I have 4 kids, and I had them all by myself back then in Delphi.
Okay, so right from the jump, he says that he had 4 kids and his daughter was in the same class. So you can hear it. Good. I mean, the audio from Patrick isn't great anyway, because this is a recording of a phone call. So he had kids in the same class as the girls. So at least the kids who were in the same school shouldn't have been in school that day, should they?
Okay. So naturally, they go around to all the parents' houses that had kids in the same school, kids in the same grade. You know, dozens and dozens of people they went and spoke to specifically on that act alone, just the school stuff. This time, they're going off the wall with shit.
Okay, so was that how Patrick was interviewed briefly on February 19th? Was it because he has a kid who is in the same grade or kids in the same school? So Patrick was very generous in answering our questions, and has continued to answer questions in comments after the event. Oh, I'm sure. Yes, he was in the chat during the... It's a bit distorted. It is distorted because the phone call itself isn't good audio. It's a Sleuth Intuition has recorded this, presumably on another device. So the audio is a bit distorted. I can put the CCs on if that will help at all. Let me I'll put them in a different color. Red, maybe. No, that's too... All right, we'll put them in yellow. Let's make them a bit bigger as well, because it's a white background, so that might help a little bit. I'm not saying it'll help a lot, because the CCs on on YouTube are generally a bit crap. All right. So maybe that's the reason why Patrick was interviewed so soon after the murders, because of his association with his kids being in the same school.
And I said, fine, I'll go in. You want DNA? Have some more. My DNA's been in a database since I went to my first tour in Iraq in 2006. So I don't give a shit. It's already been in there. So,
thank you for your service, by the way.
I just couldn't understand. Yeah, man, it was fun until I got my ass knocked out. Forced me to a medical retirement. Shit, I just got done submitting paperwork, took all the physical, all the testing and everything. I was getting accepted to warrant officer flight school. I was actually going to get a fly Blackhawks and shit, and then I fucking, next thing you know, I'm getting strapped to the stretcher, and I get my ass shit back to Fort Knox Hospital, where I spent like 2.5, 3 months, and it sucked, man. It broke my heart, man. It took my uniform. That's the one thing I love most about myself, you know, is I don't agree with what we're doing over there. Don't get me wrong at all, man. After you get over there and they pull the veil back and you see the kind of bullshit they're using our military for, kind of unsettling in the stomach. But, you know, I don't get to choose what we do, where we go. That's a bunch of dirty-ass politicians and shit like that.
Well, if you want to use this opportunity now, I can go over some of the things during this phone call if you want to clear up just a handful of things.
So they get into it now, clearing up some stuff. It is a good interview. Yeah, it is a good interview, and I agree. That's why I wanted to go through it. And for anybody who hasn't heard of Sleuth Intuition's channel, I've subscribed now. And like I said before, I didn't know about this channel, but go over there, tell him I sent you. And he's got a whole bunch of videos over there. So I'll be digging into those. So thank you, YouTube suggested videos. And thank you, Sleuth Intuition, for doing this. Try and get an interview with Brad and Elvis. That would be good. That'd be good. Oh, he has a lot of opinions. He definitely does. He definitely does. But he gets a little bit more into the DNA when he talks about his polygraph. So he was asked to give a DNA sample, which he did. So it's interesting that he's been asked to give a DNA sample, because aren't we under the impression that there was no unknown DNA found at the scene? Aren't we aware of that? Aren't we aware of it? Isn't that stated in the memorandum, that there was no DNA found at the scene? I mean, obviously there was DNA found, but what we're talking about here is unknown DNA that could be from the perpetrator. Kegan and his dad were also asked to provide a DNA sample, yeah. So that indicates to me that there was unknown DNA found at the scene. I agree with you there. Seems that the Odinites are good old boys, outdoorsy racist types. Not sure that equates to killing little white girls. Yeah. Well, the defense have got an answer for that as well. That one of the girls' relatives was in a multi-race relationship. You don't think they mentioned DNA, did they? Who? The defense did in the memorandum. I don't know whether I'll be able to find it again. But apparently it comes from... It's definitely in this document. They said that they didn't find any DNA at the scene. Hold on. I think it's in the final section. Let me just go down. Top 5. Can't find it. I know it definitely says it. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Jerry Holman has testified to the following. So this was in the depositions. The thing that sparked the prosecution going off on a wild catch up was the depositions, because of the questions that they were asking all these law enforcement people when they were deposed. So Jerry Holman testified to the following. There is no DNA linking Richard Allen to the crime scene. No data extracted from Richard Allen's phone connecting him to the murders. No data extracted from Libby's phone, blah, blah, blah. So there's no data linking Richard Allen to the crime scene. So it doesn't mean there was no DNA at all, does it? Just that there's no DNA linking Richard Allen to the crime scene. So does it mean that there was DNA at the crime scene that they've not been able to identify? It begs the question. Or are they taking DNA samples from people just because they can? That's right. That's right. It was being investigated since day one. Everything that the defense has learned about the Odinists comes from the prosecution's own discovery. Any chances we could get on with it? We are getting on with it. We are getting on with it. It's all important. All important.
On the memorandum, they say you're cutting runes to go participate in a sacrificial ritual. And then they have an image of you from Brad's, and then you're like just cutting. Wouldn't you be doing that anyway if you're practicing Norse paganism? Isn't that something you would do?
Yeah, and I want to start off one thing, if I can, real quick. There isn't a son of a bitch out there that fucks with Asatru, that practices Asatru, which, true to the Assyrian gods. There's 3 different levels of pantheon, I guess, in the faith. There's the Assyrian gods. The middle bracket is the Venerian gods, and then your lower bracket at the bottom is the Roker gods. So Asatru just means true to the Assyrian gods. And you have another branch of this that is called Varnatru, which is people who are true to the Venerian gods. And then your Rokers, and those are your darkies. Those, I don't mess with Roker Trues because I don't want to say it's the darker side, man, but Loki's the kin killer. He's the family destroyer. He's the trickster. I don't like people who hail Loki. I don't like people who, mess with the Roker Trues, Attila and Loki, and, it's not evil in a sense, but I just don't prefer those people. But people who mess with Asatru.
Okay, so the closed captions didn't do so well then. So he practices Asatru, which is a form of paganry that associates with, as he said, the Assyrian gods. And then there's another 2 types. There's the Venerian gods. So some people worship that. And then it sounds like he says Woker. I'm not sure what he says, but I think he says Woker. And they're the bad ones. They're the ones who worship Loki. So Loki in Old Norse mythology is the son of Odin, but he's the bad son. He's the bad son. And he's the baddie, he's the trickster. And according to what Patrick's just said there, Loki's the kid killer, Loki's the family destroyer, Loki's the one that you shouldn't worship. And he doesn't associate with the people that worship Loki. So, well, that's interesting. That's interesting in itself. So, who worships Loki? Who in the bunch of people mentioned in the memorandum has their worship directed at Loki, the family destroyer? You lucky you watch Marvel Avengers. Yeah. Sleuth did a good job. Yeah, he did. He did, Nicole. He did. There were some deflections. I agree. I agree. But yeah.
You know, when you get your first hammer to where, like, you know, a Christian wears a cross, a Jew wears a star, you know, you normally would make it yourself. Your first set of runes, they encourage you to make yourself. We were having a kindred meeting, a family group that comes together that, you know, you've all sat and vetted each other. You sat around and hung out with each other, and you know you get along. You got the same kind of personality. Frit. You know, the bond, you know, common grounds, we call it Frit. When you get a good kindred going, you know, you hang out once a month, once every couple of weeks. You eat and you do your ceremonies, your symbols, and your bloats.
Is that the video that Brad Holder had?
What's that?
Well, they're saying that one of their exhibits is a ceremony that you and Brad were taking part in. Looks like a bunch of people got together from Facebook and we're doing, we're getting together and we're practicing.
Yeah, that was our kindred coming to meet at my house. The kindred was my kindred. It was called Guncrier's Tribe. Guncrier is the name of Odin's spirit. Me and Brad were military. We were in Afghanistan together on my second tour. They got and linked back up after I got out of the hospital years later. We bumped into each other on social media, and then he started talking about how he wants to practice officer because he was seeing me do it on my deployment.
Okay, so Patrick and Brad knew each other. They served together in Afghanistan. Thank you for your service, Patrick and Brad. And Patrick seems to be a long time practicer of Azatru. Brad saw him doing his ceremonies while they were over there, while they were on deployment. And when they linked back up, Brad was interested and decided to, take part. So Patrick is I'd characterize him as kind of the ringleader, if you will. Certainly Brad's a follower of Patrick's type of worship. In the memorandum that they said, the defense said he's a pastor of Azatru. I don't know whether they use the term pastor in Azatru, but kindred is like a chapter of the organization. Yeah, I guess a kindred would be a group. So a group being led by Patrick. These meetings, these ceremonies were being held at Patrick's house. So this is probably Patrick doing the, lead of, I don't know. I've never been to one of these ceremonies. I don't know what they look like. Because of course, this is just a modern interpretation of the Old Norse mythology. So how the Old Norse people used to practice their religion is probably very different than the way that it's practiced in modern times. Welcome to the rabbit hole. Exactly. I got a great shout out from Teresa at Criminality. I watched Criminality. So Criminality from last night. Yes, I heard her say, yeah, somebody over there had been sent by me. Sounds like a video game. I know. It's because these names like Odin, Thor, Loki have been used in Hollywood, haven't they? They've become household names to people who watch Marvel movies. But they are the ancient gods of the Old Norse. Well, not just the Norse. The like Germanic tribes also worshipped Odin. They called him Woden. That's where we got Wednesday from. Loki doesn't have a name of the week. I think Loki's always been a bad one. He's always been the black sheep of the family. So we get Tuesday from Tyr, the Old Norse god of war. We get Thursday from Thor. And we get Friday from Frigg, who was a goddess. But in Old Norse, Woden, Wednesday, was Odin. So this is fascinating. Old Norse mythology is fascinating. Like the sagas and stuff is fascinating. But unfortunately, this modern interpretation of Old Norse has been linked to white supremacism. Old Norse religions don't do human sacrifice. No, well, that's not strictly true. A lot of the old pagan religions use sacrifice a lot. And we do know that human sacrificial things happened. We do know that. But we got to go back a long way. The black wolf of the family, yeah. Yeah.
We just got done with all of our stuff, eating, ceremony. We went out and played at the park with all the kids and everything. You know, me and my lady had 7 kids at the house, and he had his couple boys. It was time for kids' activities. And the kids had went out and collected their own branch. And then I was slicing it into discs for them, and then they were carving their own runes on those wooden discs. They made their own leather bags and popped holes in them and sewed them up, made their own little bag to keep your runes in and everything. It was just a kid's activity.
And they also showed an image.
That was in that picture.
Well, they also talk about, they lied about this. They said, at the crime scene of Abby and Libby, they're about 4 feet off the ground. Somebody rubbed in something that looked like a rune in the shape of an F. But here in this image that I'm looking at, I took a screenshot of that video, and you're a pretty tall guy, and you're reaching up also. So you're way above 4 feet. And they're trying to say that's exactly what you were doing, is very similar to the crime scene. What is it that you're doing on that tree?
I've watched all your videos. I've even watched your video on that, me at the tree.
Yeah.
The Pagan Pride Festival in Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's what that place was. Same day, every year, same location. Shola or Shiloh or whatever park in Fort Wayne, Indiana. You went there was a big ensemble where everyone stands around in a circle and you like pass a horn and beat around and you do certain shit, you know, that's all it is.
Hold on. I think I remember seeing this on Brad Holder's Facebook. Or at least a ceremony. Hold on, one sec. If he's still got it up. Maybe he's taking it down. Brad Holder, here he is. Hold on. Videos.
privilege to hail him or not. It is not required. Everybody knows who Thor is, so yes, ma'am. Oh, you are on it.
Hold on. So this is one of the ceremonies. And I'm not just going to play it all because it's like half an hour and there's kids on it and stuff. So, but there's a bit where somebody puts something on a tree. And it's a tall guy. And people speculated that it was Patrick. So they're doing things with that tree. There we go. I knew I'd seen it. Right at the end. Yes, he's reaching up. So if that is Patrick... So, all right, Brad, this is Fort Wayne Pagan Pride closing ceremony. So, he's a tall guy, Patrick. He's like 6'5". So, that's going to be at least 7 foot high, isn't it? At least. Whatever he's doing to that tree, whatever he's putting on that tree. £6'6" and 270 pounds. Yeah. Your dog would ritualistically water that tree. Yeah, Noodle would as well. Yeah, Noodle would. So yeah, I knew I'd seen it. I knew I'd seen that ceremony. So yeah, there you go. Somebody asked me in the comments whether Old Norse people practice human sacrifice. Old Norse religion, human sacrifice. Here we go. If you want to believe Google. You want to believe Google and you want to believe Wikipedia. I don't know. So more than just a simple sacrifice, the blow was central to all the ritual activities that took place in Norse sacral structures. Closer in conception to a gift, the bloat usually involved killing animals and sometimes humans in ritual fashion, with their blood being poured into bowls or onto stones. But the modern interpretation of whatever happened in Old Norse should be taken as its own thing, because all they're doing is taking sagas, poems that were written over 1,000 years ago and interpreting them to their own specification, I guess. So take it for what you will. So yeah, I did know. When I did my degree in history, I did a little course. It was only like a little course. It was only like worth 10 credits on Vikings. And we didn't specifically focus on the religious aspect of it. It was more about the wars and stuff. But I did poke a little bit into Old Norse because I think Odin's cool. And yeah, they did. They did practice human sacrifice. They did. But it was mainly animals. What is in that bowl that the lady brought to the tree? Good question. probably, I don't know. It's water, I think. She's pouring water. So the water or vodka? It's something clear anyway. Now, whether there's something in that water, I don't know. So, okay, let's get on with this.
At the end of the ceremony, I was leaving an offering for what you would call land wights and creatures in the area and, you know, the trees and all that shit. I have a coin or a crystal or something I had in my pocket, and I was trying to wedge that bastard into the tree bark.
Gotcha.
And I'm moving, as you can see in the video, I'm trying to move my hand around a little bit, trying to find a good gap to wedge this damn crystal or coin. As a matter of fact, I was planning on, possibly on my next couple of days off, going to this park and seeing if I can't walk up and see if that damn thing is still up there. I was trying to get it up super high so just some everyday Joe Patrick bike wasn't going to come by and be like, oh shit, I see something stuck in the tree at eye level. I'm going to go ahead and take that and stick it in my pocket.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, so what he was trying to do was reach up as high as he could so that he could put something in the tree itself. I think I've passed it. Can't find it again now. Oh, there we go. Just play it from there. See, the camera's only on him for a second. So yeah, so he's reaching up really high. So that's going to be over 7 foot, easily over 7 foot high. To put a crystal or a coin or something into the tree. So trees are important to them. But it's like giving an offering, I guess, to the tree. Offering a coin. Yeah. Yeah, to revere nature. Yeah. Yeah, I had a friend who was, she was Wiccan. And she would give offerings to nature. Very different than Old Norse, though. Yeah, the patches that the guards wore said, in Odin we trust. Okay. Practice Wicca. Looks much the same. Giving a sacrifice in a bowl back to nature. Just normal pagan stuff. Yeah. Yeah, my friend used to do it. She used to go up mountains and take things and give it back to nature. Because it said it on the patches. It literally said it on the patches. I'll show you. I'll show you the patches. They're in the memorandum. So these were the patches. It could be purchased off Etsy. But these were the patches that they were wearing. In Odin we trust. And then there's this. So you've got the American flag. And then you've got this symbol, which I don't know what that means. Presumably it's something to do with Odin, no? So Richard probably didn't know what that meant. But in Odin we trust. So when the defense asked him who was threatening him, he said the guys with the Odin patches. Well, there you go. It says it. It says it on the patches. And then there was this, I hate people. Now, I definitely wear that one. I definitely wear that patch. Anyone see either of the Odinite gods there? That's a good question. We have to go through. And see whether any of the guards. So Sergeant Robinson and Sergeant Jones. Because when the defense asked him who was threatening him, he said the guys with the Odin patches. So they go and watch my video from a couple of days ago where I talk about the guards. And both of those guards now have admitted that they wore the patches. And the warden of the jail has also given an affidavit and said that they were allowed to wear patches on their uniforms up until the point that the defense complained, which was last month. So what the defense has said about the guards is all true. They were wearing these patches. And they took them off. They were made to take them off when it became controversial. And they've both said that they're not Odinists, but that the patches could be associated with Odinism. But what they practice was Norse pagan heathenry. So that's what they identify their religion to be, Norse pagan heathenry. But the patches themselves are associated with Odinism. They admitted to making threats. No, they're not going to admit to making threats, are they? They both said that they were very polite to Richard. Did the guards beat him? No, but they tased him. One of them did admit to tasing him a couple of times. So that's in the affidavit as well.
Man, that's all that was, and there ain't no way. Like when I heard about this whole blood rune on a tree, it's like, you know, it was the same like, you know, Patrick Westfall is touching this tree, and it was like 3 or 4 days before I actually, you know, saw your video on this and how you described the height of this blood rune, whatever it was on the tree, and you're like, oh, well, it was like 4.5, 5 feet tall somewhere there, and I'm like, there ain't no fucking way. I was thinking in my head this whole time, there ain't no way somebody reached up.
Well, that's that Laffy Taffy,
like
you know.
8.5, 9 foot.
They see this image, the same one I'm looking at, and they're stretching the truth to make it kind of fit their narrative. But they also said that I think her name was Amber. Is it Amber Holder?
Yeah. I know Brad was married. I know he was married at the end of our deployment. I'm not sure if Amber is the wife.
I'm not. Well, she's mentioned in the.
It was the new girl he started dating shortly after I told him to pack up and roll the hell out.
Yeah, apparently she took a lie detector test, and he told her that you were responsible for the murders. That's what they put in the memorandum.
Yeah, I didn't didn't know she'd taken a lie detector test. I know that she did make that statement. Something.
Interesting long pause there. Don't know what the behaviour panel would say about that long pause. No, Mother McReady. I really wouldn't like to be guarded by someone who has a patch saying I hate people. No. But they did say in the memorandum that the F, the thing that people are saying is in F, is about 4 foot off the ground. So it can't possibly be Patrick because, well, he's 6'6". Can't possibly be him. Can't possibly have knelt down or be kneeling down when he put it on. I don't know. He dropped the mic on that question. Yeah, he did. He did. He's like, oh, no, I didn't know she'd taken the lie detector test. Kelly, yes, so did I at first. You think it's too ridiculous to be true? Yeah, I thought it was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like, I read the memorandum for the very first time on live stream. Like, I'd read bits of it, I'd flicked through it, but I hadn't read it in detail until I read it all on live streams. And I couldn't believe what I was reading. I could not believe what I was reading. But the more I think about it, and the more comes out, and the more information we get, the less ridiculous it seems. And if anything, it's added a huge amount of reasonable doubt into the case, much of which can be substantiated from the prosecution's own discovery. The defense have not done their own investigations on this. This is from the prosecution's own discovery. And now the prosecution are having to go back and play catch up. And they re-interviewed him, Patrick, in August, took a DNA sample and gave him a polygraph. Oh, no, it's nothing to do with getting carried away. It's to do with looking at the claims that are being made and thinking, well, it doesn't negate, in my opinion, it doesn't negate Richard Allen being involved. But what it does do is it gives a massive amount of reasonable doubt. And the prosecution now have to climb a mountain in order to maintain their case against Richard Allen. The defense are playing it really well. That's exactly what I thought. I gave the guards patches a 0% chance of being real. Me too. I thought there's no way that guards would have been allowed to wear patches on their uniforms, but the warden admitted that they were, and they admitted wearing them. So, who'd have thought? Yeah. Thank you, Jane, for the £5. Still catching up. I always play catch up on live streams. I very rarely watch a stream live. Always playing catch up. But thank you for the £5. Very kind of you. They are proper good attorneys. They are. And so it's not a matter of whether every single point in the memorandum is true. At this stage, we don't know. But the stuff that's coming out, well, it is true that the things that we can now verify as true are very interesting. But it doesn't, to me, in my opinion, negate Richard Allen's involvement. I'm not there. I'm not saying that Richard Allen is innocent based on this information. What I am saying is that this is now an uphill battle for the prosecution to maintain the prosecution of Richard Allen. It's an uphill battle. And it's thrown a massive, massive twist into the case. And I said, when this all came out and people were saying, oh, it's ridiculous, it's ridiculous. Like I was saying, yeah, it's ridiculous. However, this is now part of the case and we have to address this because this is going to be huge. This is going to be huge, and it is huge. It really is huge.
About, she was asking about me, trying to find out information, and the guys of one of her girlfriends supposedly had a date with me or some shit.
Yeah, something weird. Like they were recording the call or something.
I've been trying to figure out if Amber is the one that Brad had his sons with, or if this was the new girl that he met through somebody else.
No, it's the new girl.
The new girl.
Yeah, the wife isn't mentioned at all.
Well, then I can't comment or speculate about Amber. I was under the assumption it was the first woman he was married to then, because I'm not trying to say this the wrong way or, stroke my own ego, but that woman was going around and she was fucking everybody that man knew behind his back. Even people that we were in Afghanistan with, like, just absolutely demasculated that dude.
That's awful.
He couldn't turn his back without her going and crashing somebody he knew.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the first wife, not Amber. Amber's the one who's mentioned in the memorandum, and Amber's the one that Brad allegedly said to that Patrick is dangerous and, he can't protect her. He's dangerous. And he's got protection from people in high places. So.
And he brought her to my house one time, and that broad was just staring at me like a goddamn double cheeseburger, bud. And I was just like, Brad, you don't need to bring her back over here, dude. I got old ladies here, families here. And I was thinking in my head the reason that she was asking about me, and Brad got all shit show sideways.
Yeah, nice deflection away from Amber and the fact that Amber was told that he did it and that he's dangerous. Nice deflection away from Amber to this controversial ex-wife who's not mentioned in the memorandum. So I'm noting this deflection, Patrick. Well done.
He was trying to keep her from coming to my house and cheat on him with another one of his buddies. So he was giving her the whole, he's got powerful friends.
Yeah.
Stay away, ooh.
Well, she said something about a ritual.
Grind your bones to making bread.
She said you guys, like, right around the time of the murders, there was a ritual that went wrong, and Brad said, I can't hang around with him. He's a dangerous guy. And it was right after, like, a ritual that had gone wrong. Like, it just doesn't seem even true.
Who is Patrick Westfall? He is the friend of Brad Holder who was named in the defense's memorandum. And allegedly, Brad told his wife, Amber, so not the first wife who was sleeping around, the second wife who was told by Brad that Patrick was responsible for Abby and Libby's murder. So this is what Brad said. Brad told Amber that Patrick was responsible for Abby and Libby's murder. And when that came up just a few seconds ago in this interview, there was a massive pause before Patrick then said, "Oh, I didn't know she'd taken a lie detector test." So Patrick is up to his neck in it. Up to his neck in it.
No. When I told Brad to beat Britt, it was in my living room. We didn't go deep out into the woods to do our stumbles and our bloats. We did this shit in my backyard, right there in Delphi, right by Canal Park. Just a couple blocks away from the courthouse, the downtown, if you want to call it downtown. Delphi is like 2 miles wide by 2 miles, dude. It's a rinky dink little.
I don't care where you used to do your rituals. If you did them in the backyard near the courthouse, who cares where you did your rituals? We're not talking about where you did your rituals. The fact that you did your rituals in your backyard with Brad doesn't negate the possibility that you went out and killed someone or two people in the woods. It doesn't negate that. Yeah, he's a suspect, yeah. Well, according to law enforcement, he's not, or at least he wasn't. At least he wasn't until recently. And now they're having to go back and re-interview everybody. They're having to reopen the investigation. Even though they're saying that they've not reopened the investigation. They actually have, because he goes on to talk about this shortly. Back in August of this year, so just 2 months ago, he was brought in for an interview. He was polygraphed and he had his DNA taken just 2 months ago. So do law enforcement consider him a suspect now? Well, we don't know. But they certainly had a really good look at him in August. We don't know what the state of the investigation is now. Hopefully we find out more about the state of the investigation, or at least the case into Richard Allen, after Thursday, when the emergency hearing has happened. This is huge. This is huge for this case. Huge.
Town, basically. We did this shit in my backyard. We weren't going out packing, 7 to 10 kids and a handful of adults out in some deep, remote wilderness scene with creeks and all this shit. Dude, it happened in my backyard. When I told Brad to beat bricks, it was in my living room in front of everybody. That's just the person I am. I'm not.
So I'm not really sure what he means by beat bricks, but presumably he means when he fell out with Brad. I'm assuming that's what he means, but I'm not really sure what that term means.
To be all bashful and sidestep somebody and him all around. If there's a problem, I'm fucking bringing it up to the surface. We're going to take care of it right here, right now. If we can get past it, we get past it. If not, everybody go their own ways. And he picked up Asatru because of me.
So Brad picked up Asatru. The closed captions don't pick up that, but Asatru, that's the form of Norse paganry that Patrick has worshipped for a long time, and that Brad took up because of him. So he's, I guess you would say, Brad's mentor into Asatru. I guess you would say that.
While he was going through his divorce with apparently the kid's mom that's not Amber, can't remember the broad's name, he was staying with his parents. Okay. His excuse is we had found out that he was going to church, Christian church, every weekend, and then he was coming to my house and playing Asatru. And I'm not one of those half in, half out guys either. I'm serious about this lifestyle. I love Asatru. It's who I am. It's who I've been for a long time. And I don't like the phony shit. And it's like, Brad, have you been going to church, dude? Oh, yeah, I go to church every Sunday. I was like, well, you're coming over here and you're,
So Brad's edging his bets. He's going to church, to Christian church, but also practicing Asatru with Patrick. And Patrick says, well, you're either all in or you're all out. This is a lifestyle. This is a religion. You can't be going to Christian church and then coming here worshipping Odin. So it would be, I guess it would be like somebody going to church on a Sunday, going to a synagogue on a Saturday, and to a mosque on a Friday. I guess that's, you know what I mean? That's how it would feel to Patrick. So I understand what Patrick's saying here. He's saying you can't be a Christian and go to church, but also be a Norse pagan and worship Odin. That would be like being at the mosque on the Friday, the synagogue on the Saturday, and church on the Sunday. So I understand what he's saying here. I do.
In my house, with me doing awesome true, bud, you don't do both, man. You need to pick one or the other. You gotta either be all in or you're all out. He's like, well, I guess I'm all out then. And that was the end of it. I said, well,
so that's how they fell out. Brad chose Christian church and dropped as a true. So this is according to Patrick.
Anything you got in my house, beat bricks, bro.
Cover your bases, yes. Dawn, yeah. Cover your bases. I'm not really sure whether I'm going to get into heaven, so let's try Valhalla. Dude, hey.
He did it. He left the book back there, and I don't remember what happened with the damn thing, but he never came back for it. He refused to come and get any of this shit. I asked him numerous times, come get your shit, man. I got your stuff in my house. I ain't going to sit there and have that on my conscience, or you call me a thief, so come get it. And then be on your merry way. He never would. He never returned a phone call, never talked to me again. But that's our falling out was. It wasn't the ceremony gone bad. He was out fucking playing Christian and Oxentry at the same time. I don't like that.
No, I can understand that. I can understand that. I really can. Brad was unpure. Yeah, well, he was edging his bets. I'm going to have to go and watch what's it called? The Last Kingdom. I'm going to have to go and watch The Last Kingdom again now. Because that was all fights between Christianity and the Old Norse. And you get into Valhalla. If you're a warrior, you got to get into Valhalla. Murdering little girls is not a way to get yourself into Valhalla, I have to say. But yeah, I have to go and watch The Last Kingdom. Once I finish Aquarius, I'm watching Aquarius at the moment. It's about it's fictional, but it's based on the life of young Charles Manson. So I think I've got about 8 episodes of season 2 to finish, after which time I'll get back into The Last Kingdom. I've already watched it twice, like the whole lot, the whole 5 seasons. But I'm going to have to watch it again now because I am a little bit Viking, guys. Thank you, Kindness Cake, for the $4.99. Thank you. I shall just have to show you. I am a little bit Viking. I'm just going to show you. Just for anybody who doesn't know. Give me a sec. So I take this stuff very seriously. Okay. So look at this. That's my ancestry according to ancestry.com. May not go up. It won't go up any further. This is my ancestry. So I'm 48% Southern Italy. I'm 42% England and Northwest Europe. 4% Scotland. 3% Ireland. 2% Norway. And 1% Egypt. That's new. They must have updated. But I'm 2% Viking. I'm 2% Norse. So stop shitting on my people, Patrick. Stop shitting on my people. Bringing them into disrepute. You've got 15% Italian. Well, my biological father was Sicilian. How do I get back now? How do I turn it back now? Can I just click on it? Oh, there we go. So my 48% Southern Italy is right from there. And his family came from right here, just north of Agrigento. right here. So they've got it bang on. Bang on. The Egypt's new, though. That will be from the Sicilian. Because there's a lot of interbreeding between North Africa and Sicily. But yeah. So, stop bringing my people into disrepute. You little scoundrel. You're a scoundrel, Patrick. Anyway, let's move on.
Who's Elvis?
You know, I had to have my girlfriend get on Facebook because I don't have it and actually pull up a picture so I can see this dude.
So you have no.
So he did have Facebook, right? So he's not quite telling the truth here. Well, he is, but he's been a little bit, non-committal on the old Facebook. He used to have Facebook, doesn't have it anymore. So I'm part of Valkyrie, yeah. Elvis is the king. Well, not this Elvis. Not this Elvis. There's an Elvis who lives down the road from me. I'm told it's not his real name, though, which is upsetting. But everybody just knows him as Elvis. Elvis has left the building. Elvis is still on Facebook, as far as I know. But the memorandum did not say that Patrick knew Elvis. That the connection is Johnny Messer. That Johnny Messer is the guy that knows everybody. So it's Johnny Messer's the bad guy who knows everybody. He's the Loki worshipper. He's the evil one. He's in the chip shop, yeah. Oh, dear. Does he work in a chip shop?
No connection with this guy.
Nobody that I ever met.
Wow.
Huh?
So you have no connection to this guy, Elvis.
Never met the guy. Never heard his name. I was finding out through readings and listening to you and a couple other people. I bumped into videos. This cat was down in Roosevelt, Rushville, whatever, around that shit brick Johnny Messer.
Here we go.
Cheryl says.
Damn.
Well,
Oh, no. I've got to find it. I hate it when that happens. Hold on. Here we go. I've got it back. So the shit, what did he say? Shit brick or something like that. Johnny Messer. Who is the Westfall guy? Rewind. I talked about who he is at the beginning. But many Elvi. Yeah, there's many Elvises. Like I've got tons of previous videos on these Odinists. I'll tell you one video that perhaps would be really good for you to watch. It's only short. It's only 10 minutes. That when all this came out about the memorandum, and I read the entire 136 pages on hours and hours and hours of live streams, but I also did some short videos that were kind of to go alongside them for people who couldn't watch the entire lot. And I did this little 10-minute ones. So who are the Odinists in Richard Allen's astonishing defense doc, and what are they capable of? So go and watch that one. Not a lot of people watched it, but go and watch that one because that explains who these guys are. And I've got this article that I read on this video. I've got it back up because when Patrick denies that he's a white supremacist, let's revisit that. Let's revisit that when he gets to that point. But yeah, Johnny Messer's the bad guy. according to Patrick. But as in the memorandum, it states that it's Johnny Messer who's the one who knows everybody. So the memorandum never said that Elvis and Patrick knew each other. The link between them is Johnny Messer. So Patrick goes on to say he doesn't like Johnny Messer. So
still whatever around that shit brick Johnny Messer. Johnny Messer and his old lady was two off-the-wall humans, just absolute scummy sons of bitches.
So off-the-wall humans, scummy sons of bitches. So that's Johnny Messer in Patrick's words.
Really?
Annie, what the hell was that brother's name? Johnny Messer's old lady didn't like me and another acquaintance that we had in Indianapolis because we all sat down at a Cracker Barrel one time or something. You know, when the Vinlanders got together, the VSC. And
so when the Vinlanders got together, all right, let's hold that thought. Remember that name, Vinlander. Remember that name.
We were doing something, eating it, and we look over and she starts pulling out these pill bottles. And it's like, God damn, this bitch is about to have her pharmaceutical buffet right here at the table, dude. I guess whatever, each to their own, you know, as long as she, you know, doesn't embarrass me, whatever. Each to their own. These goddamn pill bottles have bed bugs in them, roly-polies, cockroaches and shit. And we finally realized, like, what the hell's in those bottles, you know? And she's like, oh, they're bugs. I laughed about it, and she's like, no, really, look. These are, she had like 3 or 4 different kind of bugs in there. And I'm like, what in the fuck do you have bugs for in your purse? She's like, oh, when we go to hotels, I'll dump bed bugs next to the bed so we get it for free.
Oh, my God. She keeps bed bugs in her purse so that when she goes to hotels, she can put bed bugs in the hotel room. Do they not realize how difficult bed bugs are to get rid of? Did you know that there's a bed bug epidemic in Paris, France? And they believe that there's as many bed bugs in London, the capital city of England, as there is in Paris. And people are saying that this is COVID on legs because bed bugs are so difficult to get rid of. And I read a newspaper article the other day about a woman in London who's using the tube, the underground train to get to work. And she's taking her own chair so she doesn't have to sit on the seats on the tube. Does she not realize that bed bugs will just walk onto her chair and she'll take the chair home and she'll get bed bugs? But bed bugs are harder to get rid of than fleas, right? If you've got animals and you get fleas and, you know, you have to treat fleas and then you think you've got rid of them and then, hey, presto, a flea pops out from somewhere, right? That's my life. That's what we contend with in my house, right? The dogs are always getting fleas from the fields and stuff, and we get rid of them and then they come back and we get rid of them. Anyway, bed bugs are incredibly difficult to get rid of. So this woman putting bed bugs in hotels, does she not realize what she's doing? Because those bed bugs, they breed like crazy. And people are going to just come out in blisters and what on earth? So interesting story. It is disgusting, Kelly. I agree. It is. COVID on legs. Yeah, that was the headline on there was a newspaper article I read the other day. Dear me. Oh, wow.
Or I go to a restaurant and we'll dump bugs on our plate to get the food for free. And I was like, are you fucking serious?
That's crazy.
Me and the other buddy, me and the other guy with the Vinlanders, we pulled Johnny to the side and took him outside. We're like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, you can't be doing that outside with us. That's not how we hold ourselves. That's not how we stand as Vinlanders. That is so just disgustingly dishonest and dirty and just low of a human being that's supposed to have pride and, you know, some bit of truth about themselves. And then shortly later, we told him, don't ever bring her back around. And we told her at the same time, don't come back around. We don't need that shit. That's disgusting. And
I agree. I agree with you there. No, this man isn't 12 years old. He had a 12-year-old son at the time of Abby and Libby's murder. How do they stand as Vinlanders? Well, we're gonna get into that when he gets to it. When he gets to it. I'm just saying, remember the name Vinlander and that he associates with Vinlanders. Flora of Scotland, thank you for the £5. You're also a Viking, according to Ancestry. Stop shitting on our people. Exactly. Exactly. Stop it. Stop it.
that's just something lower than low. So she didn't like us at all from being there at the beginning. And then when we found out that they were running around Rushville spinning counterfeit 20s.
Oh, so they were con artists.
I drove my ass to,
They were con artists.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that falls back to that Wokian shit, the trickster, the con artist, the kin killer, the brother killer. I don't like that. And I always...
All right, so did you get that? So that stands to the Loki shit, the kid killer, right? Because he said earlier that the people who worship Loki, the bad one, the bad guy, Odin's bad son, the people who worship Loki, Loki's a kid killer, a family destroyer. Let me just replay that. So it falls back to that Lokian shit, the trickster.
The con artist, the kin killer, the brother killer.
So the con artist, the kid killer, the brother killer. What's a K killer? It can't understand his accent. It's kid killer. Loki is a family destroyer. Loki is a bad guy. Loki does things for fun. Loki destroys families and cons people for fun, for no other reason. And this is what he's associating Johnny Messer and his crew to be. Lokians.
I don't like that. And I always picked up those kind of vibes off him. He's just a shady son of a bitch. And you don't know until you hang around with someone long enough to pick up on it. Sometimes you get it right away, bud. Other times it takes time. That's why the probate process and the hang-around process with the club back in the day was so long. We're going to find out everything about you. We're going to run a background check on you. We're going to vet you through a private detective. And we're going to watch you for a minimum of 1.5 to 2 years before...
There's always that possibility, passing the buck. Yeah, there is, Kelly. You're right. There's always that possibility. Because that big, long pause when Abby and Libby's murder was mentioned is a bit concerning. And he's done everything about rubbishing everybody else. You know, doesn't like Brad because he's going to Christian church. So he's out of the Vinlander club. Doesn't like Elvis, well, doesn't know Elvis. And Johnny Messer doesn't like him because he's a con artist and a Lokian. And Lokians are kid killers. And Johnny Messer's old lady was going around putting bed bugs in hotel rooms, right? Well, that's disgusting. That's disgusting. But he's saying here that you have to hang around with them in their club for 1.5 to 2 years before you get fully accepted. So there's a long kind of probationary period. And Brad didn't live up to it. Johnny Messer didn't live up to it. Patrick's the big... He's the earthly version of Odin. He's the all-father. Everybody has to, you know, fall in with what Patrick wants. Interesting.
You know, you are what we consider a brother.
Sounds like a prospect.
And they felt quick. I got in the car myself.
Elvis is in a picture with Patrick. Is he? Is that on Brad's Facebook? If that's on Brad's Facebook, I'll find it. Or it might even be on Elvis's Facebook. Interesting.
So I drove all the way down to Rushville, and on the way, I'm telling her, pack up all of his shit. I want anything that has club-related pictures on it, words on it, every single damn thing that he's gotten while he's been a hang around in a probate. And I said, I'm pulling his patch. I'm coming to get all the shit, and I did.
So he's pulling his patch. So Johnny's now out of the club. So pulling his patch, taking his patches off. Oh yeah, the guarding Richard Allen were wearing patches. Oh yeah. Interesting. Thank you, Patricia, for the $9.99. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, can you still hear me? I'm getting a bit of a low signal coverage thing here. Nicotine patches. Pulling his patches. So these guys, they're wearing patches to associate themselves with the club. Yeah, sorry, I was breaking up. Yeah, I was a little bit. I got a little bit of a spinning wheel of death there. It's gone okay again now. So, yeah. So these people like to wear patches.
That was the end of Johnny Metzer's time around me, but there never was a time there was an Elvis, Fields? Elvis Fields?
Yeah, Elvis Fields.
That dude never came around. We don't recruit. I know this report says, we go out and prey on handicapped people and these weak-minded, mongrels of society to do our bidding and shit. Ventilators don't recruit, bud. I'm going to make that clean and clear. You come to the ventilators. We don't come to you. But, dude, my patch has been retired for 4 or 5 plus years now. Easy. But when I was in the club, people recruit, bud. You came to us.
So, yeah, well, Elvis did come to you. Elvis did go to the Vinlanders and said that he wanted to be part of the gang. And then what did Elvis tell his sister? He said, after the murders, that he was in a gang now and he now had a brother. That's what he told his sister. And his sister even took a polygraph and passed because they wanted to know whether what she was saying about Elvis was true. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, it's interesting.
You show us you want to be part of the club, all that shit, and that was the end of it. There is no going out and recruiting. Every person I've ever known in the BSC, -1. We're talking dudes over 6 foot, 200 pounds, smart, educated, fearless, drug-free, pro-American. And yes, that is a requirement for the BSC.
So to be in the Vinlanders, you've got to be pro-American, 6'2" or above, right? Drug-free, smart, fearless. So you got to basically be a warrior. And probably Elvis doesn't look like he's 6'2". He doesn't look like he's smart. Probably not fearless, but Elvis wants to be part of the gang. So what would they tell Elvis that he had to do to be part of the gang? I don't know. I'm just making a suggestion. Maybe he had to make some kind of sacrifice to be part of the gang. And then afterwards tells his sister that he's now part of the gang and that he's now has a brother. I don't know. Just a suggestion. Based on what Patrick, the all-father of the Vinlanders, seems to be getting at here. Using his own words.
Drug-free.
So where does all this racism talk come from? Is it a racist organization? I mean, Nationalist?
People who want to see, people who want to see Americans buying American-made shit, not bundling up all of our grain and our oil and our agriculture and shipping the shit overseas for bottom dollar, then turning around and buying the same shit back from other countries at top dollar. We would love to see, a textile industry come back to America, so we're not, buying sweatshop slave labor crap. We want to see Americans buying American shit, making American shit for the Americans.
Okay, so all right, I can get that. I can get that industry needs to go back to America. I would say the same about over here, that all our textile industry's gone, all our mining industry's gone, and we're buying it for very cheap stuff from overseas while there's tons and tons of unemployment. I can get all that. I can. However, there is a side to nationalism, at least in some nationalists, not all. You can be patriotic to whatever country that you belong to and be completely not racist. I absolutely accept that. However, what about the Vinlanders? Let's just take a little foray here into who the Vinlanders actually are. So this is the article that I talked about in that video that I mentioned just earlier, this one. Who are the Odinists that is in Richard Allen's defense doc. So I read through it there, but I'm going to briefly just read through part of it, not all of it, again. Okay, so behind the American Guard, hardcore white supremacists. This is from 2017, just a month after Abby and Libby were murdered, but I'm sure that's just a coincidence. So the following piece was originally posted on our National Extremism blog page. All right. Dozens of people showed up in the Indiana State House in Indianapolis on March 25th, 2017 to support Trump and his administration making America great again. All right. So we're not arguing politics. We're not arguing Trump or anything like that. We're focusing on the Vinlanders. So about a dozen of the ralliers, a significant portion of the whole, were a little different. They had American flags, but also carried strange shields. Many wore T-shirts that read American Guard or Vinlanders. A few had somewhat sinister appearances, such as the marcher who wore Vinlander sunglasses and sported a racial holy war tattoo on the side of his head. These marchers were actually members and associates of a group called the American Guard and were there, they later stated, to provide security for the march against the threat of left-wing protesters. Those damn left-wing protesters got everywhere. The American Guard formed in Indiana in 2016 and officially went national in February 2017. This timing is uncanny. With the stated goal of voluntary community protection, activism, and service based around the ideals of American constitutional nationalism and the preservation of Western culture. The group would, it claimed, encourage Americans of any race, class, or faith to participate with us in these beliefs. Well, they're not accepting everybody. Because Patrick said you've got to be 6'2", you've got to be smart, fearless, drug-free, and pro-American. So, there's probably a lot of people who don't fit 6'2", smart, fearless. It's very elitist, isn't it? It's elitist. Okay. Even a cursory examination of the American Guard, however, suggests that its deliberately innocuous self-description may not be accurate. The group's logo, for example, prominently displays two cross meat cleavers, while members frequently use images of actor Daniel Day-Lewis in his role as Bill the Butcher in the movie The Gangs of New York. So, Bill the Butcher. Okay, Bill the Butcher was a fictional version of William Poole, the leader of the Bowery Boys, a violent street gang in New York City, infamous for its attacks on immigrants. And like the Bowery Boys, whom they apparently admire, the American Guard has a background with connections to anti-immigrant extremism, hatred, and violence. Indeed, before the American Guard was the American Guard, it was actually the Indiana chapter of a group called the Soldiers of Odin. a branch of an extreme anti-immigrant and anti-refugee group that originated in Finland in 2015 and has spread to many other countries. The Soldiers of Odin conduct vigilante patrols to protect citizens from the ostensible depredations of refugees. The Indiana Soldiers of Odin conducted several such patrols in 2016. As a recent ADL report has shown, many Soldiers of Odin members are white supremacists or anti-government extremists. The man who started the Indiana Soldiers of Odin, who later converted it into the American Guard, is Brian James, a long-time Indiana white supremacist who was one of the founders of the Vinlanders Social Club, a hardcore racist skinhead gang who has a high association with violence. In fact, members or associates of the Vinlanders Social Club, which Patrick just calls the club, okay, has been responsible for at least 9 murders and as many other crimes. Another Vinlander Social Club founder, Adrian Apodaca, was recently arrested in Florida on federal drug robbery and weapons charges, as well as charges related to an alleged murder for hire plot. Brian James can be seen below at the march and posing with other Vinlanders. So this is Brian James here. This is Brian James. All right. All right. Are you ready? Are you ready for some familiar faces now? Are you ready for some familiar faces? A number of Vinlanders took part in the Indianapolis rally, some of whom posed for photographs along with other unwitting marchers while flashing the Vinlanders hand sign. So these are some of the Vinlanders here. All right. All right, you ready? You ready? Okay. Vinlander probate member Johnny Messer of Indianapolis can be seen below at the march. At the march, flashing the Vinlanders hand sign, and in a Facebook image wearing a Vinlanders probate patch. There's Johnny Messer. There's the guy who got his patch taken off him by Patrick. Okay, do you want to see somebody else as well? All right, do you want to see somebody else? All right. Below, one can see Vinlander probate member Patrick Westfall at the march, posing with other march participants in a Facebook image wearing a Vinlander probate shirt. There he is. There's our Patrick. There he is. There he is. There he is at the march. There he is. There he is. So, yeah. Okay. The white supremacist connections of the American Guard extend beyond the Vinlanders. And then it goes on to other people. All right. So that's who Patrick Westfall really is. All right. Okay. Let's carry on.
If you want to call that nationalism, call it nationalism.
I can't get closer on the photos, I'm afraid. That's as far as I could zoom in. It's because the photos are very small. Hold on. That's as close as I could get. I could save the photos and then they still don't show up really. Hold on. All right. I'll have to share this. I'll have to just share my whole screen for a second. Hold on. All right. So this is Johnny Messer. That's Johnny. That's Johnny there. And Patrick, where is he? Patrick. There's Patrick. There he is. Patrick. Next to this dude here with the, I don't know, tattooed face. So that's Patrick. Patrick and Johnny. This is Johnny. Once again, here's Johnny. All right, back to this.
You want to call it skinhead, call it skinhead. There's an organization out there called the Southern Poverty Law Center. All their assholes, SPLC. They have, it's a group of liberal, left-wing, hard left activists who've been given power by the United States government to stand and point at anybody they want and say racist, terrorist, Nazi, whatever. There is a church in California. I have a magazine. Let me get the actual. Let me get out of my safe here, bud. I got a call one day from somebody. They're like, hey, man, I'm over at Purdue University. I'm cleaning out, trash cans and shit. And I found a magazine in there that looked like someone was trying to throw it away, and I got it out to make sure, they really did want to throw it away before I took the trash out. The name of it is The Intelligence Report. It is the Southern Poverty Law Center's quarterly magazine. And I'm in this one. This is spring of 2018, issue number 164. I'm in this for the Vinlander shit.
Yeah, because you call yourself a Vinlander. So you've called yourself a Vinlander in this very interview. So if you're in magazines talking about Vinlanders, well, it's because you are one. My word.
Page 24. But this magazine has all the listed hate groups and all the terrorist organizations and all this other shit. Basically, anybody who does not hold their belief structure, their left-wing activist belief structure, they consider a hate group. There is a church in California who has a program that is called American Children First. All the donations this church gets, all the funding that they receive from patrons and other people, they buy stuff for actual citizenized American children. Black, brown, yellow, khaki, plaid, it don't matter. American children. Not illegal immigrants, stuff like that. And because they only give to American citizen children, like I said, black ones, brown ones, everything, they're labeled a fucking hate group by the SPLC. That's the kind of people these people are. If you don't believe in their ideologies and you fall in line behind them, you're a hate group. And they have labeled the VSC that. Every single patriot group, pro-American group, pro-Constitution, not pro-government, pro-Constitution, they're all hate groups to these people. Now, at the time this magazine come out, ISIS wasn't in here, and actual real terrorist organizations like that, they weren't labeled in this magazine, but anything that's not their personal view, they'll call you a hate group, skinhead, Nazi. Back when the club was first brought into life, was first created, there was some...
Anna, American children plaid must be Scottish immigrant stock. Yeah, they were in tartan. They've got tartan skin. Yeah. Yeah. They have nothing to do with Scandinavia. Absolutely nothing. Nothing. I think they've picked up on worshipping Odin. These guys like Patrick, because it's cool, because Vikings are cool. So they want to think of themselves as these, smart, strong, pilfering types who are, they're bad guys, but they're honorable as well. And yeah, it's just an image. It's an image. That's all.
Hardcore ass sons of bitches in it. There really was. And I ain't going to lie and bullshit and smoke screen nobody. VSC had some honky-kong sons of bitches in it. There were some bad dudes in there, and some bad shit had happened. Club went through a big reorganization, revamping. Bunch of people were packing and sent on their way. And then they were trying to redo the image of the club, start doing things differently, more community-based things like this and that. But it don't matter, man. Once the name is stuck to you by the SPLC, the government just runs with it. So, it'll always be, they could have gay black guys in there, and and it will still be a racist Nazi skinhead organization. I ain't no fucking skinhead only. I'm a nationalist, I'll give you that. I'm a constitutional nationalist. I swore no to the Constitution of this country, and I'm tired of seeing this country bleed and weep and suffer. So that makes me a Nazi, bud, and I'll be one.
Well, in the memorandum, they say that
Yeah, let's get back to the Delphi murders here. Let's talk about the memorandum and what it says there.
the motivation had something to do with one of the victims' mothers dating outside of her race, and that's where it kind of stems from. So they're putting race into it. And
I saw that. I heard you say that.
And then also they brought up Flora because you lived up the street from Flora, and if you're some racist son of a bitch, of course you did that too, right?
Oh yeah.
So Flora is the 4 little kids who died in a fire that they think is arson. So that happened in Flora. I think it was Libby's mother. I think it was Libby's mother that was known to be dating outside of her race.
When I lived in Flora is when I first moved out to Carroll County after I got out of Fort Knox Hospital. A quiet, slow place, cheaper, and people live out in Flora and Delphi because it's cheaper, man. It's way cheaper than Lafayette. Lafayette's where Purdue University's at, it's expensive. The house I was living in, there's 3 really big time slumlords out in Carroll County. And 2 of them sit on the city council. So anytime a mention of housing inspector ever comes up in Carroll County, these 2 dudes shoot that shit down. And I mean, they shoot it down fast. So many slum properties, black mold laden insulation under floorboards, and just firebox haphazards and shit. It's bad, man. It really is. The house I was living in Flora, when they first started remodeling it.
It keeps saying Florida, but it's not. It's Flora. It's the little town next to Delphi. It's very close to Delphi.
There was a hole through the roof, a hole through the second level, and snow on the living room floor when they started remodeling this house.
Jeez.
The guy named Paul Ryder, I do believe, he's one of these super slumlords, and he's on the city council meetings. He stays behind the church look at me. I'm a good person persona, but that's my opinion. So I found out there was black mold in this house, and I moved in there with my oldest 2 children. They were itty bitties back then.
Yeah, you can get really sick from that.
And I've already got bad lung problems from aluminum. My fucking God, aluminum exposure in my first tour. Like, I got bad aluminum poisoning in my lungs. So
what causes that?
I don't need black mold if I can stay away from it.
What causes aluminum poisoning?
The area that I lived on in Iraq was right on the edge.
Well, he talks about everything. He has a story about everything. Except the murders. Doesn't really want to talk about them, does he? Doesn't really want to talk about them.
Edge of Baghdad City. Saddam had multiple properties. His main property that he lived in full time was the Green Zone, the big palace smack dab ass in Baghdad. His hunting property turned into a huge military base called the Victory Liberty Compound. It was these 5 bases that basically all grew together in this massive complex, damn near the size of Indianapolis. I mean, I'm not kidding you, it's huge. There's Camp Liberty, Camp Victory, Stryker, Biop, Baghdad International Airport, and like a prison. Can't remember what the hell the name of it is.
That's right. In Flora, the fire was ruled arson, and they just happened to be the only black family in town. They did. And 4 little children died in the fire.
I lived on was Camp Liberty, and that area was shelled so heavily during the invasion when they were taking ground, when America was taking ground and fighting their way into the country. a whole bunch of the bomb casings vaporized in this area. And it's that real powdery sand, moon dust, as I like to just refer to it. You stomp down and this cloud rises up real slow and just keeps rising. There's a whole lot of aluminum mixture into this shit, and it has really adverse effects on handfuls of people out of, other handfuls of people that are over there, and I'm just one of the lucky sons of bitches.
Dang. Well, we appreciate your service and what you did.
Forever.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, but I got us out of the house with the black mold in it and got us into Delphi. But Florida's just as small as Delphi. So yeah, I literally lived right around the corner from the house fire that the mother ran out of and left her 4 little girls in to burn to death.
Do you remember when it happened?
No one likes to talk about the house. Whatever happened, a fire got started inside their apartment, from what I understand, and the mother just up and straight out the goddamn house. She didn't get her kids. She didn't go back in to get her kids. She ran straight out of the house as soon as she knew that there was a fire. And we're talking a small area. It would take you seconds to scoop up kids and haul ass.
So blame a panicked mother for the fact that her children died in a fire that was set on purpose. Okay, then let's blame the mother.
She ran out of the house and stood there in the yard while that goddamn house burned, and the little girls died in it.
Have you heard anything about what might have caused that? You hear anything like out on the street about it? Who might have did it?
No.
Did you hear that big pause? Did you hear that big pause? It can talk. It can talk like 10 to the dozen about, this and that and the other. But when you ask him a direct question about something that he might not want to answer, there's just this little big pause and this little no. All right. Do you want to know about the Flora fires? Do you want to know about them? Let's read this article here from the Indie Star. Let's read this. Okay. So Galen Rose stood outside her home dressed in a nightgown, frantically yelling to her children. Coming from inside the burning home was the desperate screams of 4 little girls. A neighbour, Jeff Cook, rushed out of his home. He saw the flames shooting through his neighbour's home, and then through the fog of smoke, he saw Rose. This wasn't a little apartment. This was an actual house. I failed, she told him. I couldn't get my babies. So this is the mother who Patrick's blaming here. Sobbing, Rose lamented to Cook that as much as she had tried, the power of the black smoke had beaten her back from her girls' bedrooms. Others tried too, but the flames engulfed the floor of her home so rapidly it looked hopeless from the start. Soon the screams subsided. From a distance, a neighbour watched the firefighters bring the girls' bodies out on stretchers. Kiana Davis, 11, Kiara Phillips, 9, Carrielle MacDonald, 7, and Keone Welsh, 5, died in the early hours of November 31st, a Monday, in their home. And more than 7 months later, the people in Flora, a town with 2,000 people that is barely larger than 1 square mile, is marred in grief, fear, and suspicion, still wondering if the fire was intentionally set. And it has been ruled a arson. So that's the house, not an apartment, These kids would have been sleeping in the bedrooms, presumably upstairs, and the mother couldn't get to them. So yeah, there's that, yeah. So the residency, it's a duplex of 2 apartments, stands on a corner just steps from Flora's downtown. The home is blackened by soot and smoke, but children's toys are strewn across the porch, untouched by the blaze. Even now, gusts of wind carry the burnt, acrid smell across the neighbourhood, and the screams of the little girls still haunt those who remain. That's terrible. After years of setback, Tracy Rose and his family were building a life in Flora. Oh. So, I see. So there's an upstairs and then a downstairs. So presumably they were downstairs if the mother was able to get out. And then that must be the stairs to the upstairs. Anyway, Cassie, stop it.
I mean, I was in Delphi at the time. I heard about the house fire, and we saw all the news reports about, you know, all the little girls that went up in it. And I mean, it's sadder than shit, but it really was. I'm a parent. I got 4 kids too. I get it. I don't know what the hell I would do if I had lost one of my 4, let alone all of them. But you best believe I'd come out looking like some crispy swamp thing. Either I'm going to paradise, you know, dying in a house fire, retrieving kids.
Yeah, you go to Valhalla, wouldn't you? You go to Valhalla. Because that's where Viking warriors go when they do, you know, when they die doing something warrior-like and honourable, they go to Valhalla, which is the Viking version of paradise, for those of you who don't know and haven't seen The Last Kingdom. Cassie wants to wait. I'm going to keep this playing, but I'm just going to go down and open the door for Cassie. So I'll be a couple of minutes. I can still hear this, but I just can't comment. All right.
Or, you know what I mean? I'm not going to stand there in the front yard and let all this shit go down. We never heard, there never was suspected arson. It never was labeled as that, as far as I'm understanding. It was never labeled as arson or anything. The fire started inside the home.
Yeah, I believe there was an accelerant. Yeah, somebody dumped an accelerant and lit the house on fire.
Oh, well, you know shit that I don't.
That's some private investigators are that's what they're saying. I don't think it's part of the official record yet.
Well, that's probably why I never heard it.
One more quick question. Did you what did you know about Richard Allen living in Delphi, running into him at the bars and shit like that?
In Delphi, I was never really much with bar scenes. I've been a few times. I'll just be honest with you. I did my drinking at home. When they asked me about Allen, I thought that they were talking. I know some other Allens that lived in Delphi. One of them died from an overdose a year ago. He had a brother. So I said, "Oh, is he related to so-and-so?" And they're like, "Well, no, this is someone totally different." And dude, I never met the guy. I've never seen the damn guy. They even showed me his picture when I went in to speak to police.
Oh wait, they interviewed you? They interviewed you after they arrested Richard Allen?
My first interviews were at the very beginning of the whole thing back in 2017. When they brought me back in the beginning of August, I do believe it was, yes, beginning of August. And that's when they started asking me all the crazy ass questions about how Ostrue can be related to, is Ostrue related to Satanism in any way? Is there any satanic rituals? And I'm like, fuck no, dude. I gave him the rundown and told him, shame on you guys. Whoever put that idea in your head, shame on them too.
So is Ostrue related to Satanism? No, it isn't. But, you know, for the uneducated person, it's worth asking, isn't it? When this is potentially relating to the murder of 2 little girls. That's right, Mick Philpott. Oh, yes, Mick Philpott. Set fire to his house to blame an ex, yeah. He was an evil one.
Got shit to do with it.
So were they trying to connect Richard Allen to it in some way?
No, they never, after asking me if I knew him or ever had any interaction with him before, they never mentioned him again. Anytime during the interview where it was just mouth to mouth, or even when I sat through the 4.5-hour polygraph, they were asking a bunch of other questions during the polygraph.
So he had a 4.5-hour polygraph where they asked him a whole bunch of questions. Now, he doesn't say whether he passed or failed the polygraph. Sleuth Intuition assumed that he passed, but we don't know that. He didn't say. Let's be clear. He didn't say.
So you must have passed.
Did you stab anyone? Did you organize anything? Did you personally know, assist, give car rides to, organize? I mean, every damn question in the world. I mean, like I said, everywhere from did you personally take a knife and ever stab anybody? Did you organize anything? Do you know who did it? I mean, every single question I can think of, and for 4.5 hours.
Well, they didn't mention it in the memorandum, so you must not have failed.
Oh, that's why I'm trying to sue the shit. I guarantee you that fucking...
Well, he didn't say that he passed. He didn't say he passed. Now, maybe that was just an oversight on his part, but he did not say he passed this poly. Didn't say.
Attorney, he had to have known about it. It was a month before the memorandum came out that I submitted DNA again. It's been on file since I went to Iraq. It's been on file since I got a felony back in the day. And then they took more DNA at the mouth-to-mouth interview beginning of August.
So they must have DNA.
Later, like 4 days later, actually, I came back for the polygraph.
Yeah, they must have DNA then.
They must have DNA at the scene. There must be unknown DNA at the scene. There must be. But according to the memorandum, there's no DNA at the scene that links Richard Allen to it, which is interesting. That's according to the memorandum, based on the testimony of Detective Holman at his deposition. No DNA linking Richard Allen to the murder scene. We don't know whether the DNA that was found links anyone else to the murder scene. We don't know that. But up until recently, did the prosecution bother to check any of that? We don't know. But it's interesting that in August, this guy, Patrick, was holding for an interview, 4.5-hour polygraph, and we don't know whether he passed or failed. Maybe he passed some questions, failed others. We don't know because he didn't say. We can't assume anything from the polygraph. We can't assume anything from this conversation. And he was also asked to submit DNA.
And as we were all told from the beginning, there was no DNA in this case. So when he asked me for DNA, I'm like, so you guys did have DNA in this case, or otherwise you wouldn't be asking for fucking mine. I said that also begs the question, the hell you doing with Richard Allen in jail? And if you're still looking for other people's DNA, that must mean you had DNA in the case and his didn't match.
That is a good assumption to make. I don't know whether that's true, but it's a good assumption to make. It's the conclusion I could draw from what we know. DNA from the floor of fire. That's a good point. That's a good point. Mind you, if you set a fire, you're probably not going to leave DNA, are you? You know, you like a petrol bomb or something.
And they the state cops kind of sat there and stared at me with those doughy lost eyes and shit. Like, well, I mean, it's already in the database. If you want more of it, get your swap out and not spit all over that some bitch and they put in their little tube, stuck in their envelope, and disappeared with it.
Well, we don't know a whole lot about Richard Allen. What do you know about him? Just living in the same town or whatever?
Not a damn thing.
Yeah, he seems like a very private person. He seems like a very private person.
I can tell you what, in a town as small as Delphi, most people know a lot of people. Like, I wasn't a big social bug. I can't stand humans, to be honest. I
bet he has a I hate people patch. Who's interviewing him? This is a channel called Sleuth Intuition. Sleuth Intuition. The link to this interview, if you want to, please go over and listen to it again. There's a lot in it. You know, I'm chopping it up, but go and listen to it again in full. Go and give Sleuth Intuition the view on this. Go and like it. Go and subscribe to him. Did he know Richard Allen? He's getting there. He's getting there.
Like hanging out in crowds. I don't like having bar scene shit, concert scene shit. I just don't like being around so many different kinds of human beings, just too many personality clashes. I'm not the kind that's super tolerant of belligerent assholes and,
To be fair, I'm the same. I can agree with him on this. I want an I hate people patch, I do.
That are rude and inconsiderate, dicks, and apparently even being 6'5", 250 pounds, roughly. I must have the word bitch written on my forehead and pen marker that I can't see in the spectrum of light because people love to piss with me, dude. You'd be shocked how many people are like, hey, bro, you want to go out? And it's like, dude, just fucking sit down, kid. Like, really, man, just leave me alone.
Well,
I'm not getting into this. I'm not fucking breaking you up into pieces just because you're trying to prove something to a girl. So I don't go out much. But little thing, Delphi's small, man.
Yeah.
You normally see everyone in town at least once a week going to the little grocery store, to the Dollar General that they have, or the Walmart.
Where I'm going to put this comment on the screen. So, an Indiana State Police officer from near the area, he didn't work directly on the case, but water cooler talk is that they had DNA, but FBI messed it up. Oh my word. How can you mess up DNA? How can you mess up a DNA test? That's insane. That's crazy.
Or the Save-A-Lot
or the
something like that. You
CVS.
still see people constantly. Never saw the guy once.
No.
So he never saw Richard Allen, never saw him once in Delphi. Well, he obviously never went into the CVS in Delphi because that's where Richard Allen worked. So I don't know. Never saw him once, though. Never saw him once. In a place with only 2,000 people. Well, I suppose if he never went to CVS, if he never went to the bar that Richard Allen went to, I suppose it's possible he's never come across him, but doesn't know him, apparently doesn't know Richard Allen.
Well, what do you have to say to any attorneys that might be listening to us talk right now? What do you want to say to them, and how you've been affected by what's been going on with the memorandum and what Richard Allen's defense attorney is doing to your life right now? What do you have to say to that? What are your fears?
It's went all the way from home, my home life. I have 4 kids. Only one of them is out of school, but they're back into college. My 3 sons are still in school, and they've already been being harassed and fucked with. I haven't heard of any really loud, asinine encounters out in the streets, but there's been people who's approached my children already.
Wow.
I'm not super worried about my boys. They're all my size, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I raised them the way I am. But being harassed, my job, I've had entire shifts of people in my place of employment, are threatening to do walkouts and getting a hold of corporate because pagan cult leader, killer, Charles Manson type some bitch is working there. Like, it's just...
Yeah, look, I don't agree with any of this. Harassing his kids, completely out of order. Going into his workplace, completely out of order. Let law enforcement deal with it. Harassing people is not the way to get justice. It's not. I can understand why people get like that. I can, but harassing children, affecting people's lives is not the way to afford justice to Abby and Libby. It really isn't. It really, really isn't. So I hope people don't do this, but it's what happens, I'm afraid. It's sad, but it's true.
Harassment, mad phone calls, I don't even really answer my phone much anymore. Just because, if I don't recognize the number, I'm sure the hell not answering it because it's going to be somebody who's got something slick to say. It's absolutely shit. It don't matter what I do, how I do it from here on out. When the lie detector test, finally they have to admit, I did have this, but I had such a big information dump, I didn't have a chance to look at it. Shit.
That's big.
I'm still going to be known as a pagan cult leader killer in Delphi.
Yeah, because you're not on trial. You're not on trial.
Huh?
You're not on trial, so
What?
all they have to do is.
That's true. Richard Allen is too short to be allowed in the club. Yeah, he's only 5'4". Yeah, too short. Got to be 6'2" or above to be in Patrick's club.
Make you look guilty in the public's eye. That's it.
Yeah, and they have. And it will be that way forever. When documentaries come out years down the road, my name's going to be in it. And I'm going to have to keep.
No, your name's only going to be in it if you had something to do with the murders. People very quickly forget. They really do. They quickly forget. But it doesn't mean to say that it's right. You know, harassment is wrong. People shouldn't be doing it, especially to his kids. No way. But no, the only time your name's going to be mentioned in documentaries, Patrick, is if you are directly linked to the murders and it is proven that you are. Right? They're not going to make a documentary about a memorandum where some Odinists are named unless it's proven that they are actually part of the murders. And then, yeah.
Keep going through all this shit over and over again, trying to be like, hey, look, you know, this is the situation. This lawyer was just being a scummy human being in this process. I get his job, and I do.
No, they're going to write a book or something. No, they're going above and beyond. They're
going above and beyond because that's what they should do if they're good at their job. They are going above and beyond because there's plenty of reasonable doubt in this case. It's not about writing a book. If they go on to write a book later, who knows? They might do. Lots of people write books about cases, but even some attorneys write books about cases. But they're doing the job. They're doing the job. Thank you, Flower of Scotland, for the £5 to enter Valhalla. You have to have died in battle. These eyes are really stretching, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Richard Allen is getting ready to confess, and they're telling him, no, just let us do our job, because they want to drag this out. They want to write a book. They want to make a movie. They want to do whatever it is, and they don't care if they use people like you to do it.
I don't think I agree with that. They're doing the job, and they're doing the job very well. Why are they able to do the job very well? It's because there's a shit ton of reasonable doubt in this case. There really is.
I agree. I ain't going to disagree with that 1%, bud.
Well, how can attorneys get a hold of you?
Horribly. And now my son, they just filed seven new pieces of paper end of last week.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going in there and explaining how I guess he was aware that I was interviewed again, but he never mentioned that damn polygraph or the DNA I submitted.
Yep.
But
well, 7 new pieces of paper relating to his son, no mention about the polygraph or the DNA that he submitted. So no mention of the polygraph. They would have told him in that interview whether he passed or failed and which questions he passed and which questions he failed, if it went that way, or if it was inconclusive. They'd have told him. So Patrick is choosing not to tell us the results of that polygraph. That's very interesting. Now, what do they want with his son?
Even have my son listed in that court paperwork too now. For some reason, they were trying to question my oldest son, who at that point in time was 12 years old. 12 years old. And
so he was 12 years old at the time of the murder. So it's possible the 12-year-old's going to commit a murder, but on his own, I don't think so. And I'm not going to say that a kid was there. I'm not going to say a kid's responsible for this. I'm never going to say that. But it's interesting that they've taken an interest in his son. They've taken an interest in him. That's interesting.
As I was walking out of my polygraph, they were already on the phone to my son, who's 18 now, asking him what he was doing back in those days where he was schooling. He's like, at school concession. I was in school. Well, how do you know? How do you know you were in school? Like, because I was 12 and my dad don't play games. If it's time for school, you go to school.
Well, we don't know whether he was actually in school that day, do we? We don't know whether he was in school that day. We know Abby and Libby had a day off school, so we don't know whether his son also had a day off school. We don't know that for sure. We can speculate that it was a Monday. He should have been in school. However, Abby and Libby had a day off, so this is why it's important to know whether he went to the same school. But I'm sure law enforcement will be able to check that out. Of course they will.
You keep your grades good. You keep your room clean. You know, the school's in. We're in school. My dad doesn't play those games. Well, how do you know? And he's like, look, call the goddamn school and ask them if I was there. All I can tell you. This was 6 years ago. I was 12. I don't know.
And they got your alibi, right? They mentioned that you were at home with your son.
Yeah, the FBI.
Wait, hold on a minute. So if his alibi is that he was at home with his son, well, I thought his son was at school. Hold on a minute. So if the son was meant to be at school that day, and I said, I don't know, but I think I would have been at school. Well, he couldn't have been at school if Patrick was at home with him that day. That doesn't make sense. So are we now saying that Patrick does not have an alibi for that day? Are we saying that? Because if his alibi was his son and his son was at school, well, if his son was at school, then Patrick has no alibi. Interesting.
Like I said, they came to my house. They sat down with me at the table. They even made comments about the Vinlanders shit. Like, I mean, I remembered intently, what's that ring stand for? What's that flag on the wall? And I'm like, gentlemen, I know who you guys are. You guys know who I am. I know that big, thick folder on the bottom there is your little dot.
They're referring to his eldest son, Gypsy Girl, who's now 18. So they had a day off school because it was a warm winter and they had winter days to burn. Okay, so they were just given given a day off. Yeah, his son is his alibi. Yeah. In the memorandum, it claims that his alibi was that he was at home with his son Nick. So I don't know. Maybe some kids were at school and some weren't. Maybe some schools were off and some weren't. I don't know. But yeah. Interesting.
About me. Let's just cut the bullshit and get down to it, you know? And they were like, fair enough. And we sat and talked about everything. They were in my house for over an hour. So I tried to tell these cops, dude, I've had my ass rocked in Afghanistan, Iraq. I've been knocked out. I got bad memory problems. I got neural damage and shit. And it affects my life pretty bad, man. I can barely remember when I have for breakfast most days. And that's no bullshit. I'm not going to remember what I was doing 6 years ago. But the FBI has a folder from an interview they set down at my table in my living room and did with me. If you guys want to refresh your brain caps, go get that piece of paper out and read it. It's going to give you a better explanation of what I was doing then than I ever could now.
Yeah, so the interview that he had with law enforcement was, according to the memorandum, on February 19th, just 6 days after the murder. But here, it says here, this is page 100 of the memorandum, Westfall's alibi for February 13th, 2017, is that on the day of the abduction, he, Patrick Westfall, was at home with his son, Nick. Now, we don't know which son Nick is. We don't know if Nick is the son who is now claiming that he was at school that day. We don't know because he's got 3 sons. And we don't know if the sons went to different schools. We don't know. But that was his alibi, according to the memorandum, that he was at home with his son, Nick. So maybe that's why they wanted to speak to this kid, because he was his dad's alibi. I'm just speculating now that if he was saying, well, I was at home with my son, Nick, if indeed Nick is the eldest son, who was 12 at the time, so 18 now, and then Nick, the 18-year-old now, says, well, I was at school that day. Well, there's no alibi then, is there? There's no alibi. School gets out at 2:45. Yeah, but the girls were murdered around that time. They were murdered shortly after 2:13. 2:13 is the time of the Bridge Guy video. So the murder would have been in progress at 2:45. Exactly. Law enforcement must have had grounds to interview, take DNA, administer polygraph. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a new investigation, I'm telling you. They're having to go back and do everything properly now because of what the defense has done. This is huge. The defense they've just turned up this massive hornet's nest of really bad investigation, and they're having to go back and do it all again because you know, if they want to move forward with the prosecution of Richard Allen, then they're going to have answers for where all of these people were, all of these Odinists that are named. They're going to have a rock solid case to be sure that none of these guys could be involved. That's why they're doing polygraphs, DNA, interrogations, the whole 9 yards, which they should have done at the beginning. If they had reason to interview Patrick Westfall just 6 days after the murder, but then on March the 2nd declare he was no longer a suspect, well, why was he a suspect in the first place? What did they have that enabled Patrick? Who gave them Patrick Westfall's name? There's a lot behind this. There's a lot. It's huge, this.
No way I ever could. I knew I lived in Delphi. I knew I had a red Ford Flex with a white roof. And I know I had my 4 kids at the house. I was dating a girl who wound up becoming my wife. I'm divorcing now. And that's about all.
Patrick, was that the woman that you assaulted in 2021 that you got done for battery for? I'm just asking for a friend.
I can tell you about those days, bud.
So what are you looking to do? Are you going to try to sue Richard Allen's defense team? How
Absolutely. I'm going after everyone. And I'd really like to see his Odin report. I'd like to know.
I would like to see the Odin report. I really would, because the defense are basing the crux of their argument on this Odin report, which the prosecution put together way back when.
What was in it, so I have an idea of just how twisted up this dude was taking everything, because if he's just being a parrot, if he's just click paste parroting shit from the Odin report.
I don't think the defense can be sued. I don't think they can, because they're basing everything that they said in the memorandum on evidence that was collected by the prosecution back in 2017-18 when they were doing this this evidence collection into the Odinists. So I don't think he's got a grounds to sue them. And those names were there in the discovery. Yeah, anyone can be sued, but you have to have grounds to sue them. You have to sue somebody for defamation. You have to prove that what they're saying is lying. And those lies have affected your reputation. So you can't just sue someone and it be successful. Yes, you can sue them, but you're not going to be successful. So you're just going to waste a lot of money. So there's that.
Straight over into the memorandum.
But I'm sure that the defense would rather like Patrick to try to sue them, because in a civil suit, a lot could come out. A lot could come out because he's got to prove that he's not lying. So, yeah, go for it, Patrick. Go for it. I'm sure that the defense attorneys are quaking in the boots because you've got to prove that they're lying about you. How are you going to prove that?
There's not a whole lot that I can do. I have found that out so far. He's just flat out just twisting everything into a big spiral. Do what I can, but until that Odin report is able to be seen, I don't know. And that's what the libel attorney, he pretty much, the one attorney I did talk to, he pretty much sounded like he already made up his mind before he called me back that he wasn't going to be interested in the shit because everything I said was will but this and but that. It's like, look, dude, you ain't interested in it. Just fucking say it. Get off the phone with me so I can move on to the next law firm. And
Well,
I think I don't think an attorney's going to take the case because I don't think there's grounds. Don't think there's grounds. Yeah, Golden, thank you. Start with proving your alibi. Exactly. Start with proving your alibi. Yeah. Little Bear, no worries. You have to leave. We're nearly at the end of this now anyway. It's wrapping up now.
let's say there is an attorney that is interested in maybe taking it. You want them to email me and then me send you their number, or?
that'd be great.
All right. I think that's the end. I don't think there's too much more.
In the chat or whatever and hang out.
Oh, yeah, that's the end. So it was a really good interview. I'll put this link in the description. I've already got the link in the description of the video, but I'll put it in the chat again. So the channel is Sleuth Intuition. Oh, I've not liked it. So give it a like. I have subscribed. Why is it telling me I'm not subscribed? I subscribed to him. Why does it do that? Why does YouTube do that? You think you've subscribed to someone and then you've not subscribed. But this is Sleuth Intuition. This was from October the 11th, so 2 days ago. And go and show Sleuth Intuition some love. Tell him I sent you. And yeah, good interview. Really interesting. So my assessment of Patrick Westfall, well, I certainly don't think he's bridge guy. He's too tall, wrong shape, not the voice, guys down the hill. But as far as his attitude goes, I think he's not a very likable chap. But more importantly to the case, he didn't answer the questions. He didn't answer the questions about the murders. He deflected, and he was able to chat about all sorts of things at length, ad nauseum, but the questions that really mattered, he didn't answer. And we don't know whether he passed a polygraph. We don't know the results of the DNA test. We don't know his alibi. Because if his alibi was that he was at home with his son, Nick, and it turns out that Nick is the son that they're speaking to, who said he was at school on that day, then Patrick Westfall does not have an alibi. So that has to be very concerning. Very concerning for law enforcement and very concerning for the prosecution. Does that mean that Richard Allen is innocent? I'm not there. I'm not there to say that. I'm not there to say that because I don't know all the evidence that the prosecution have. I know that the evidence that they put in the probable cause affidavit isn't very strong, but is that all they've got? And hazard to say probably not. They've probably got more. Because the probable cause affidavit, obviously, is the arrest warrant. It's the information that they had up to the point of an arrest. It doesn't tell us whether there was evidence of Abby and Libby's DNA, blood, anything like that on his clothes, anything that they found from the house. We don't know the results of the forensic testing of anything they found from the house. We know that there was animal hairs found at the scene. We don't know whether they match any of Richard Allen's animals. We know he's got a dog. We know he had a cat that they dug up. So they had to dig up the dead cat to get hair off the cat. So we don't know the results of any of that forensics. That forensics might tie Richard Allen to the scene. It might do. We don't know yet. But what we do know is that there is a massive amount of reasonable doubt now in this case. And the prosecution, as I keep saying, have a huge uphill battle. Huge uphill battle that they did not believe that they had. In August, when the depositions happened, they must have shit their pants when they realised just the angle that the defence were going to take, and they've had to go back now and reevaluate. So the next significant date for this case is October the 19th. Let me just show you quickly what the judge put out. It's on my community. So this, Richard Allen will be in court next week. So this is the full thing. So on the court's motion, this cause is ordered to set for status hearing on October 19th at 2 p.m. in the Allen Superior Court. Counsel ordered to arrange their schedule to appear. It's not, can you appear? It's that you are going to appear. You're going to be here. If you've got prior engagements, change them. The purpose of the hearing is to discuss the upcoming hearing on October 31st and other matters which have recently arisen. Court will prepare a transport order to have the defendant appear. So the defendant is going to be in court, Richard Allen, on next Thursday, October 19th. Yeah, I think it might. Well, I don't know whether it's going to be about the leaks, whether it's going to be about the Franks hearing. We don't know, because the judge will have to make a decision as to whether she's going to allow the defence to have the Franks hearing. But anything that's come out in court papers isn't subject to the gag order. Court documentation is part of the court case, and that in itself is not part of the gag order. The gag order is specific to things like, talking outside of court procedures. Now, that's not to say that the judge wasn't furious. I'm sure she has been furious. Yeah, we'll wait and see. So that's the next significant date for this case, certainly for Richard Allen. The pictures being leaked. Well, we don't know who leaked those pictures. I assume you mean the crime scene pictures, which I haven't seen, by the way. I know Gray Hughes said he'd seen them, but nobody sent them to me. But we don't know who leaked them. They haven't been up to now. The defense wants all further hearings and the trial to be televised, to have cameras in the courts, but at the moment we don't know what the judge has decided on, so we don't know the result of that. Hopefully but as it stands, no, none of the hearings up to now have been televised. So as it stands, no, this next hearing won't be, unless the judge says in the next few days that cameras are allowed in. Ultimately, it's up to the judge to make that. It's actually only very recent that cameras have been allowed in courts in Indiana. They weren't allowed up till very recently. I think it was earlier this year, even. So it's a new thing for courts in Indiana. So it's up to the judge as to whether she agrees with the defense. But I would imagine that they'd want to have a conversation about that before she makes that decision. You wonder what height Elvis is? I don't know. Don't know how big Elvis is. He doesn't look like a big guy, but obviously it's just looking at a photo, it's difficult to tell how tall he is. But he's not a big beefy guy like Patrick, but I don't know how tall he is. All right, guys, I'm going to call it here. I've been on here nearly 3 hours. So once again, very good interview by Sleuth Intuition. Props to him for getting Patrick. I'll just put the link to this interview in the chat once again for those replay viewers who've got to the end of this. It's been in the description box from the beginning. And yeah, go over, show him some love, give him the view, listen to the interview again. Yeah, well done, Sleuth Intuition. All right, guys, I'm going to go. Thank you all for being respectful. Thank you, as always, to the mods. Thank you for the donations. And I will see you tomorrow for the usual video over on Michelle After Dark. The next thing probably that's going to come out on this channel will be Crime Story Sunday. And that will be part 2 of the Bardstown murders. So if you didn't see part 1, then go over and watch it now, right now. And that was a long one for a Crime Story Sunday. And part 2 will be out 8 p.m. UK time. It's a premiere, which means it's a recorded video, but there's a live chat. So that's likely going to be the next thing out on this channel. But I'll be over on Michelle After Dark tomorrow. All right, guys. Bye for now. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, afternoon, etc., etc., etc. Bye, guys.